Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 162. I am so excited for today's interview. In fact, this is one I have been waiting to do pretty much since I launched the podcast. So can you imagine my excitement that we're sitting down today with the Katherine-Anne Boyd, one of the most special people in my life. And I'm so thrilled to have you here today. I finally get to have you to sit down and share with my listeners. It's such a treat to have you here today.
Wow, that's so awesome. It's such an honor, really, because I have been listening to your podcast and going, oh my gosh, what a great podcast you have. And I just thought, wow, if I could ever be a guest, that would be really something
Please.
special.
So for listeners to know, Katherine-Anne and I met in 2003. I'd recently lost my mom in 2002, and I decided to attend a very advanced and intense leadership, team management and leadership training program. It was very intense, and a lot of it went over my head because I was, 23 years old, and kind of my life was totally in question after losing my mom, and I was reevaluating everything. So of course I decided to jump into one of the most intense self-development programs I could, and I ended up spending about 3 years in it. Katherine-Anne was my teammate, and my first real experience with her was I was her coach, and which is felt like such a role reversal because I was this kid in my 20s who didn't know anything, and I was responsible for coaching someone who was so much more advanced. She has an MBA. She was very high up in the university system, and had been coaching for many years prior to me learning or meeting her. And so it was such a delight to connect with Katherine-Anne because she lifted me up, and I soon realized that the gift of being a coach, which she is the ability to lift people up and help them to be the best person they can be and the best person they want to be. So I that was my first real experience of the gift of being a coach. Well, Katherine and I went on to study together in neurolinguistic programming and timeline therapy and hypnosis, and we took all kinds of classes together and traveled together. And she was the best man and best woman at my wedding because my
Yay.
husband and I fought over her. So you can just tell how special she is to me. And so Katherine-Anne, who has been coaching for how many years have you been doing coaching?
It's kind of embarrassing to say. It's like over 40 years.
Well, you were coaching before coaching was popular.
Yeah, called it coaching because I'm not like a sports coach. I'm a life coach. And now narrowing it to focusing on health coaching. So yeah, nobody called it that kind of thing at that time. And it was completely unknown.
Right. Well, you're kind of a pioneer. You tend to get into things long before they became popular. Which is so cool.
I wander in the woods, I guess is another way of saying it.
Well, Katherine-Anne, I'd love for you to start off our interview by sharing your story, because I'm so delighted that the listeners today get to learn from you and learn about you, because you have the most interesting story. You're probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met. So take it away.
Whoa.
Please share your story, but more importantly, share the health journey that led you to become this amazing health and life coach.
Well, I guess in the health aspect of my life, it's truly been a journey because when I was a child, I had a skin problem that was diagnosed as something hereditary, and a lot of your guests will have spoken about the impact of heredity, whether genes express or don't express. At the time, they said, you're stuck with this, and it's nothing that anybody can do anything about. So I had really dry skin. It was really uncomfortable, and it made people who have plaque psoriasis are probably the closest to understanding the kind of skin challenge that I had. Um, but there was nothing doctors would do about it. A
And
couple of
it's called ichthyosis, right?
Yeah, yeah, which is called in English translation, that's fish scale disease. Doesn't look like fish scales, but it kind of, I guess it got kind of lumpy and coarse. I looked, if it were a fish, it's a very weird fish. But anyway, it was something doctors would experiment on me whenever I would go to a doctor to see if there was any new knowledge about it. They would experiment. And I got to see that in allopathic treatment, when doctors don't know what to do, they really need to experiment. So they test out drugs, they test out chemicals, I had the most vile smelling things given to me to apply topically to my skin. And you can only imagine what that does to your body. So, along with that, um, smelly topical ointments and unguents, just really vile things to put on my skin. Doctors prescribed drugs, they tried different things. And meanwhile, I was getting fat. I got gradually heavier and heavier. And so by the time I was finishing high school, I had been on a couple of diets. I would say by now I've been on many. Um, in our health coaching program, which your listeners have heard you talk about over the course of our program, um, we study about 100 or over 100 different diets. I've probably been on most of them over the years.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, in the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, for those who aren't familiar, Catherine-Anne and I are both in the same program, because this is the thing we do, is we're so into personal growth and we're into learning, and I think a lot of my listeners are also very very similar to us, like knowledge junkies, love to just keep learning and
oh
growing and
yeah.
expanding. So of course, the second I joined, and the first person I called was Katherine-Anne, and I said, "You have to sign up. This is incredible." And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I told you to join, because we've had so much fun. We're almost done. I can't believe the year's almost over. And but
Yeah.
you're right. We've learned over 100 dietary theories in the last year, and I have a very similar experience that you. Almost everyone that we've been taught, I'm like, yeah, I've done that one. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
Catherine and I together. I think we've been on like about 5 diets together. Remember when we did Atkins? It was like in 2006. We the summer of 2006 we did Atkins
Yeah.
together, and
That
we've
was
done
good.
all kinds. I think you just go on diets with me because you love my cooking. I think that's
No, oh, hey, that is absolutely true. Anytime Ashley goes on a diet, any diet, it's going to be a good one because everything will be the most flavorful. And yeah, so exploring diets is really something that I have great familiarity with. And one of the things that we've been talking about in our program, I am so delighted to hear the term biodiversity
hmm.
because it really gives a chance to understand why sometimes a diet or an exercise will work for one person, but it doesn't work for another, and why it'll work for a while and then something will change and the same program doesn't work. Um, so it's just an acknowledgement that each person is different, each body is different, and we change over time. So the thing that works for us at one time may not work for us another time. And it's been a really great journey to recognize that this is actually my experience of life, that something that worked once doesn't work the next time. because I'm a different person and my body's different too. So over the years, I've done many different things. And as I said, many different diets and tried different things. And they've worked in varying degrees of success. Sometimes, 20 pounds. Now, as a person who's, I think the term is morbidly obese, very, very overweight, um, losing 20 pounds may sound like a lot to some people, but I have recently, in the last year and a half, lost more than 100 pounds.
I'm
And
so
I'm,
proud of you.
oh, thank you. I am feeling healthier than I ever felt. And it's really interesting to me to be able to say that because all my life I exercised. I've done Tai Chi and yoga, Pilates, different kinds of physical activity. So I always was active. And then hmm, something happened in my life. So a dear friend failed me in a really horrible way. My mother became critically ill, and I needed to pay a lot of attention to her before her final passing. And then a dear friend passed away unexpectedly. And all of those things happened within um, about a 10-month period. So I was reeling from grieving to grieving to grieving. And in that period, my reaction was to stop doing any kind of physical activity. And at the end of a year, my body said, "You, dear, need to pay attention to me." I got a severe infection in my leg and wound up in the emergency at the hospital. And they started prescribing antibiotics because they were so concerned that I was in danger of losing my leg. Now, I'm not a person who likes to take medication of any sort, but I felt I had no option at this point. And so then my body is recovering from the infection and also dealing with the impact on my digestion. I realized I felt horrible and I was as heavy as I had ever been, feeling as ill as I had ever felt. I needed to do something. So I started paying attention to what it was that I was eating. I looked at what I was eating and the things that I had been doing in my grieving process to console myself were coffee and a muffin with a friend, having an ice cream to feel that life was a little sweeter. I needed something to feel good, and that was what I could see in that transition and that grieving period. It was a thing to do, but I needed to do something different to recover. And so, looking at the recovery, I started paying attention to eating a more holistic diet, eating healthy food, natural sourced, organic foods. Um, and it truly changed the way I feel about food and the impact on my body. So my body healed over the period of a year, and I've had a significant change in my health. I feel better than I have ever felt. And as I told you before, I exercised before and I had been very active physically. I used to walk anywhere from 4 to 10 miles a day as part of my job at the university, including lots of stairs because the buildings were not accessible. So, yeah, to be able to say now that I feel better than I've ever felt is a real transformation in my health and something I'm really proud of. So, to go back to what coaching is and the kinds of coaching that I'd done, well, given that I had a skin disease and was always obese. People saw me as a person who was interested in health because I knew about diets, I knew about exercise, and I knew a lot of things that sustained and helped other people improve their health. I became the go-to person. People asked me all the time, what can I do in such and such a circumstance or situation? How can I deal with a different situation? And part of the expansion into coaching that I did, um, I worked with so many people in different areas. I talked with people about their careers. I supervised such a large number of people that I was able to support people in different areas of their lives. Like some people needed support about their relationship, some people needed support in their career, some people really needed freedom to talk about spirituality. And a lot of people needed information about health. So it was really funny to me when we got a chance to be part of the Institute of Integrative Nutrition to talk about our health coach course, to learn about the importance of those areas of life, career, relationship, health and well-being, and spirituality as a significant part of what we call primary food. So those are things that I've coached people on just naturally as part of what I've already done. And now I'm really focusing on working with people about health.
It's funny that someone who's overweight tends to know more about diets than someone who's skinny. It's
Mhm,
because we spend our entire life constantly seeking, at least those who are overweight and actively seeking
mhm,
for the solution, for their solution, tend to know a lot about diets, know a lot about food. If someone's got a problem for a long time, they're probably the one that knows the most different solutions out there.
mhm.
And I saw you. I saw for many years what you ate. You ate relatively healthy, healthier than the standard American or Canadian diet for sure. And I
Mhm.
know I saw you. You could run miles around me, and you're very active. But there's something that shifted in you that allowed you to drop over 100 pounds in the healthiest way possible. And now, didn't you say that you're now in clothing, clothing sizes that you were in high school?
Smaller than when I was in high school.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. And just so the listeners know, your niche that you really love to focus on is helping women who are like uh either empty nest syndrome women, or women who are executives, women who are maybe a bit older, like between 40 and 70. Is that
Mhm.
correct? And that's
Absolutely.
that's a- again partially because that's your generation, so it makes sense to
Yes.
want to support those.
Maybe we can talk. Maybe we have a similar kind of language,
Right.
I guess.
I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think millennials might love working with you just because you're so knowledgeable, but I can understand why a busy executive, or a woman who's about to be maybe a empty nester would want to talk to you, because you are so good at helping people to find a direction in their life. And another thing
Mhm.
is, your mom and you both, your parents lived to be very old and very healthy, very old, but you experienced all the difficulties around losing parents and the emotional struggle, and how to kind of get yourself on the other side in a healthy way.
Mhm.
And I know that a lot of us, we're going to lose our parents at some point. And so I think that what happens is, when we're grieving, because this happened to me when I lost my parents, is that
Mhm.
we tend to lose ourselves in the process,
Mhm.
and then we have to find ourselves again, and we're
Yeah.
questioning everything. And so a coach is someone is like you, so lovingly, so gently helps us to find our path again. And it's not like going to therapy. It's not therapy. It's not counseling. Why don't you describe why,
Yeah.
what is it? What's the difference between your type of coaching and like going to see a counselor or therapist, and why is yours so therapeutic?
Oh, it's interesting because I think that as a coach, I'm a guide on the side. It's a person I listen, and I listen for what it is that's not being said. So I listen for what's behind what my clients say. I listen for what it is that's missing, the gaps, and support my client to get it, to find that place that they need to go. Um, so it's not about prodding somebody into confessing and telling me their deep, dark secrets. It's not that. It's about listening for what it is they're not saying. So what it is missing in terms of the relationship, the food, whatever. Um, yeah, it's the only thing I can say. It sounds really weird to be talking about listening for a gap. Um, so the thing is to listen for the thing the person doesn't know they don't know, that there's a space to contribute something that allows for the individual to identify the next step in whatever their issue is. So whether which of the areas of life that they want to focus on, whether it's health, whether it's career, relationship, to just listen to what it is missing and test it out. So I'm a little bit like an explorer with what my client talks about. I listen for what's missing and then make a suggestion or ask a question to see if there's a difference that the client can hear in that.
Mm-hmm. Can
Yeah.
you think of an example? I'm totally putting you on the spot.
Well, I think about one of my clients actually came to me because she was just unhappy with her job. And in talking about her job, it turned out she was really frustrated with her home. And she didn't really say it that way, but what was missing for her was a private space in her home. She didn't have a private space away from the chaos with her two adult daughters and the kind of um, excitement that they had in the house. And when she realized that, I said, "What would it be like for you to have a space that was private, a space where you could sit and read in your very own chair?" Within 3 months, she had sold the family house and bought the perfect house and moved into it. It was amazing that when she started to think about having a space in her bedroom where she could put her feet up in a private chair with the door closed, have some incense and meditate or read, listen to music just by herself. That changed her life.
And before talking to you, she was blaming her unhappiness in life on her career. But
Hmm.
so did she change her career? Did she need to,
Nope.
once she had her private space, was that fulfilled and then she started liking her career again?
It was amazing because, yes, she was complaining about her career. And after moving, she had so much freedom in her career that she was able to go on and record a course that she had been challenged with before. She had been unwilling to record the course before, but she got really excited about it and fulfilled on it and was really highly successful with it. So it was really interesting how her life shifted totally in her career out of the freedom that she gave herself in her home environment. So she got freedom in her spirituality, I would say, just by having some private space. And that freed up how she felt about her job, and her performance at work shifted. Amazing. And she felt happier about her experience of her daughters. The adult children in her home didn't um, disturb her when she was in her private space, and she was comfortable being with them. So it was amazing, amazing difference.
It sounds like it. I mean, I think about how many people don't actually know what they're upset about. The idea that comes to mind is early on when I was first married my husband. I remember I can actually see it in my mind's eye. We're driving down the road, and in this back when we lived in Las Vegas, and we're driving down St. Rose Parkway, and I said something. I don't even remember what I said. It wasn't anything to poke. It wasn't anything that should have triggered anyone. It was like the sky is blue, right? And it was just whatever I said, and all of a sudden he's like angry and starting a fight with me. And I
Oh.
look at him like he has two heads. And I take a deep breath because I know to take a deep breath. And I say, are you reacting to what I just said, or are you coming from something in your past? Because I don't feel that your reaction is warranted by what I just said. And he is very, intelligent. So he took a minute, and he was in like upset, like clear anger mode. So it was is good on him for also being able to step down. And we were
Whoa.
silent for a few minutes as he was driving. And then he goes, that was coming from my ex. That was totally not you.
Wow.
What you just said was nothing, had nothing to do. Whatever emotion was going on, you said something in a way that my ex would have said, and that would have been a fight, or whatever it was. I just remember that it was in his blind spot, and
Yeah.
if I had been a reactive person, which most of us are, and I can be in reactive mode, don't
Oh,
get me
yeah.
wrong, but
We all
but
do.
but that could have really escalated, and
Mm.
so there's things in our blind spots that we, if we had taken it at face value, it would have just kept fighting. Whereas really had it came from a deeper root issue. And I
Mm.
find that a lot of people, we live such busy lives that we don't take the time to take a deep breath and go, where's this coming from? Like, am I really upset at my husband, or am I upset at myself, or am I upset at my life, or am I upset at, why do I have this emotion? Because emotions come up, and
Mm.
then we tend to blame, or and
Yep.
like you said, she pointed at her job and she said, I'm not happy here.
Mhm.
And it was really that she had that, what we call primary food,
Mhm.
which is the primary food is all the aspects of your life that you don't put in your mouth. So your career, your relationships, your happiness, your spirituality, your joy. And you helped her to see that what was missing. I love it. She wouldn't have on her own realized what was missing in her life. And
Mhm.
so you really just listen, and then you see the missing, and you help them to
Yeah.
figure out the missing. I think that is amazing. And I mean, you could spend years in therapy and not get that.
Yeah, it's interesting because a therapist is not designed to listen to my home isn't working for me. If you go in and say, I don't like my job, because the focus then is on you and your job, or you functioning in work. Um, just to look again at weight loss, for example, I was looking recently at one of the previous doctors that I saw for weight loss. He wrote a book, and as part of my treatment with him, I bought his book. And I realized that his book is all about how women in particular have mood swings and hormonal shifts that cause them to eat more and gain weight, and therefore they should be on various sedatives and tranquilizers to lose weight. So it's one of the reasons I didn't do very well on his program, because he believed that I was needing these various medications, and I was protesting that I did not.
Well, you
And
know, it's because you have a womb, right? It's
yes,
we're women are
yes,
hysterical because we have
yes,
a womb. That's why they call it a hysterectomy. Because when you take
yes,
the womb out of a woman, you're taking the hysterical out of the woman. So of
yep.
course, this male doctor would have
Oh,
that belief about women. We're just
yeah,
hysterical, or our womb drives us crazy.
yeah. And he has, looking at his book, he is commended for the amount of research that went into it. And I'm reading it going, oh my gosh, I think I should keep it only as a reminder of part of my history that I survived. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. And I guess that's to say that a therapist provides therapy, and that's the way they are trained and what they provide. And certainly there are reasons to see a therapist, reasons to talk to someone for specific purposes. And a coach is a person who is a guide, a support, someone who mentors, someone who listens for. So that's a difference in the role. And I guess I would say I provide a loving listening space and listen with intuition to support someone to improve their life. Some things take time, some things are quick. I'm in it for supporting people. I love having people change their lives as a result of listening for the light bulb opportunity to turn on
Mm,
a light bulb.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you give us some light bulb moments? Why don't you go ahead and teach us some fun things that we should know about to improve our life and our health?
Wow. It's funny because as a health coach, one of the things I want to say is drink more water and get more sleep. Those are the really things that we all know to do. So those are kind of easy things to say, not so easy to do.
Well, I
It's
like how
it's
you teach strategies though, because like spending some time with you, you have the strategy that you have your bottle of water or your container of water, and you have it everywhere with you, and
Mhm.
you always fill it up at every opportunity.
Yep.
And you're one of the most hydrated people I've ever met.
What's really funny is everybody who knows me knows that I always have my water bottle with me. So you're right. I have a 3-cup water bottle. And in fact, my water bottle has inspirational, either, um, I forget the word.
Affirmations.
Thank you. Thank you. Affirmations. Yes. Affirmations and words. The one that I am looking at right now says, I am hardworking, amazing, unique, ambitious, confidential, strong, humble, happy, me, beautiful, fearless. And so when I drink water, it is already blessed with that affirmation. And it makes me feel happy to know that you gave it to me.
I was gonna say I'm drinking from the same one right now. We've got matching cups. I don't know where
Yeah,
the other one went. We have another one that says something else, but I'm drinking
yeah,
from the I am one
yeah.
as well. I've been carrying it with me for the last 2 months straight, and I'm
Awesome.
getting at
Good
least 80
job.
ounces a day. I know I should do more, but at least 80 ounces a day. And I can really tell the difference. It's amazing. Because I thought I drink enough water until I spent some time with you, and then I realized I have to really up my game.
Yeah.
And within 7 days, it takes about 7 days for the body to fully hydrate.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it really does make a big difference. In fact, Dr. Molly Niedermeyer, who is one of my naturopaths, and she was the dean of Bastyr University, which is a naturopathic
Mm,
medical school here, and she's been practicing for over 30 years in the field of naturopathic medicine.
wow.
She when she teaches at Bastyr, she'll get like these students. Obviously, if you're in a naturopathic medical school, you're very excited about health, and she
Mhm.
challenges them to drink their body weight in ounces, one third to one half of their body weight in ounces,
Hmm.
for 7 days, and then report back. And everyone notices a major shift. They all notice
Mhm.
more energy, better sleep, better digestion,
Mhm.
less inflammation. I mean, the list goes on and on. And they're always shocked. And she's like, "See, this is like so simple. This is so foundational." But
Mhm.
her thing is that uh, she has like several pillars of health, of one of them being water, eating more vegetables, moving your body, getting enough sleep. You know, the things that we all know are good for us, right? But how do we implement it? That's why I love coaching, because you teach someone how to get more sleep, or how to get deeper, better quality
Mhm.
sleep, I should say.
Yeah.
You teach people how to do like sleep hygiene. You teach people how to implement
Mhm.
so that they can drink more
Yeah.
water, or different strategies, how to exercise, how to include exercise if they live a busy lifestyle, or if they're not
Yeah.
physically fit. But those are basically like the pillars of health. We all know to eat more vegetables. And this
Yes.
doctor will not explore, unless the person's like on death's door, or it's emergency medicine. She will not explore drugs as a form of therapy, and therapeutic with her patients, until they have implemented each of these pillars of health.
Oh, fantastic.
Because she's like, I'm not going to give you a drug because you've got headaches, when I know you're dehydrated and you're not moving your body and not eating enough vegetables, and you're not going to sleep on time. Like, she's like,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
just makes total sense. But you help people with the foundation of health, but then you go beyond that to listen to what's missing in their life, that is going to help them to bring their life back into alignment. So we've got drinking more water, which I totally agree with. What other steps could we learn from you to improve our health?
Well, um, with getting more sleep, one of the things to do is do a sleep hygiene check, and that means look at where your electronics are. I had a conversation with a friend today and asked how many televisions are in your home. And 4, it turns out. And this is in a 3-bedroom house. I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, that means 1 in the living room and 1 in each of the bedrooms?" "Yes," he says. I don't have a TV in my bedroom, and I do my very best to make sure that electronics are out of the bedroom. So the blue light that is, the basis of the TV screen has been proven to disrupt our sleep cycles. So, trying to remember to turn off the TV, the computer, the cell phone about half an hour or so before you want to go to sleep. It sounds funny to say that because most of us, I know a lot of people who actually, with the TV in the bedroom, turn it on with a timer and go to sleep with the TV on. I
Wow.
assert that that causes disruptions in the sleep. So, those are individuals who've been complaining to me that they don't sleep well, they wake up in the night. That's why, because the TV has disrupted the sleep cycles and means that we're not getting restful sleep. I've found I sleep better knowing that I'm well hydrated. I know that that has made a difference in my sleep quality. And the other thing is to practice getting the water in before, oh, a few hours before you go to bed, so that you're not waking up in order to empty your bladder. That can be a bit uncomfortable. So you do need to have a way to get to the bathroom quickly and turn around and come back without turning on lights. So you need
Absolutely. And one strategy is every time you go pee, drink a glass of water after
Oh, yeah.
wash your hands and then drink a glass of water
Yep.
and so you're at least replacing what just left your body.
Mhm. Yeah. I recommend actually starting the day because typically we start the day by going to the washroom and emptying our bladder. So consider that's generally a pretty large volume of fluid that's leaving the body at that point. So not only are we hungry when we wake up, but we're thirsty. And a lot of times I was always pretty good about having breakfast in the morning. So let me just say, first of all, to finish the water, do have water first thing in the morning. Now, flavoring it with lemon juice, maybe adding a little vitamin C if you want some flavor, adding a nutritious vitamin mix. We have some that you're familiar with that I add as well. Um, I love my Beyond Tangy Tangerine. It adds vitamins and minerals to my water, and I hydrate a lot with that. So adding water to get started in the day is a really great thing. And then we need to break our fast. We've been fasting overnight. You've had a good night's sleep. You need to get up and have something to start the day. So a healthy breakfast. Now, a healthy breakfast is something that can be accommodated in a lot of different ways. I've had people tell me that they have no time. And in fact, there were times in my life when I would go to work and pick up a muffin and coffee, and I'd be so delighted that I had a muffin and coffee for breakfast. Um, I did that when I was walking a lot, working out a lot. I don't recommend it. It's really not a healthy choice for breakfast. So there are combinations of food that you can find, and that's what I work with clients on, to explore the kinds of preferences they have, to get some kind of protein, some kind of balance. So maybe vegetables in an omelet, maybe some sort of meat patty, um, a vegetable wrap. There are a number of different things. Smoothies are a portable way of getting foods. So a breakfast, really important to add something with some nutrition in it, high quality food at that point to break your fast so that you don't get to lunch and go, I'm really, really hungry and need to have some junk food.
Yeah, once we're in hunger mode,
Mm,
it's like the willpower goes away.
I don't have decision-making capability at that point. It's like, bring it on. What is there? Yeah, it's the junk food. That's when I'm gonna eat ice cream and bonbons and those muffins. I love muffins, you know. It's a long time since I've had muffins,
I
thank
I
goodness,
gotta
but
confess something. Like I can tell that you might not have been gluten free for the last 6 years, but I've been gluten free for the last 6 years, and I have like rarely had a gluten free muffin because they're really gross. I'm sorry, but you can't. I have had all kinds of the gluten free alternatives, and I'm just like, you
Mm,
know what? I'm just gonna like not even buy gluten free foods. I'm just gonna eat whole foods. I'm not even eating grains. For the most part, I'm just
yeah,
doing like
yeah.
vegetables and healthy fats and lots of vegetables and some meat and I very seldom do I eat gluten-free pastries because gluten-free pastries just make me miss
Yeah.
the real thing. But I gotta confess something.
Uh-oh.
So we were in Skykomish, which is this cute little town, like the size of the town you grew up in Canada,
Mhm,
and it has a train station.
mhm,
And that's basically the attraction, right?
mhm.
And this was on Saturday, and they
Ah,
have 1/8 scale trains that you can ride.
Oh, sweet.
And so it was gorgeous. It was a gorgeous day. It was raining, and the reason why I say gorgeous is because we had 55 days of consecutive no rain, sunshine only, and
Mm.
so we were very happy for the rain. But we were in the rain on these little 1/8 scale trains, having a blast. It was their third annual Skykomish train festival. And my son like rode these trains for 2 hours straight. Like it was
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
So
He'd
I
be in heaven.
Oh yeah, he was totally in heaven. So I went into the museum. There's a train museum right there. So I went into the museum to kind of get warmed up, and there's a whole display of trains that the kids can play with. So as my son's playing with them, and Duffy is outside checking out some of the steam engines. These are 1/8 scale, and they're steam engines powered by coal. It is so
Mm.
cool, but they're tiny, right? They're tiny. They're
Yeah.
1/8 scale. And so I'm sitting there in the museum with my son playing with the stuff, and there's a bunch of pies, and there's a big sign that says "Do not eat." And I'm sitting there going, "Okay, just because it says "Do not eat" makes me want it more, right?"
Yep.
I've been gluten free, very very strictly gluten free for 6 years,
Yeah.
but I was very righteous about it, like really like how vegans get really righteous about being vegan. I was really really righteous
Mhm.
about being
Yeah.
gluten free. And what I really learned from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition while going through this health coaching program is that, sometimes we should really consider like life, primary foods, and be okay with not being so, so, so strict to the point of not living,
Mhm.
right? So I'm
Yeah.
kind of sitting there staring at all these pies that says do not touch because they're having a pie contest. This town is this like cute little town where everyone bakes, and you got to think it's like little town America, right? And this woman is counting she's counting all these ballots in the corner, and I'm not really paying much attention to her. I'm watching my son, occasionally watching the pies, and you could smell them. I mean, it's delicious, right? And each pie only has one slice taken out of it because like all the judges like split a slice or whatever. And
Oh.
so I'm just like looking at all the gluten, watching my son play, warming up from the rain. And she lifts up the ballot and goes, "We have a tie. What are we gonna do? We have a tie." And I kind of look at her, and I'm just curious. I'm like, "Well, which ones are her tying?" I mean, I think that banana cream pie would have been the winner just because it looked good, right? She goes, "But number 6 and number 8," and she looks at me. She goes, "Oh, would you help me to be the tiebreaker?" And now you've got to get, I've been like gluten free for 6 years, totally celibate, right? Like I am like so strict. I'm so righteous about, and like I'm not telling my in laws because I'm so righteous around them about not eating gluten. I'm like, I do not want them knowing about this. And I am like, and there's this part of me that's like the little fat kid inside me is going, I am asked to be the tie breaking judge in a pie contest. This is
I
like on
love
my
it.
bucket list. And so you know what? I said screw it. And I had one bite of the one pie and one bite of the other, and I was the decider. I was the one that made the decision, the monumental, life changing decision of who won, the number one pie in the Skykomish third annual train festival pie contest. I'm the deciding judge.
Yay.
And I ate gluten and I immediately
Ooh.
got a sore throat for about
Oh,
15 minutes. But other than that, I didn't like my body. I mean, this is the good thing about once you're healthy and eating really healthy,
yes.
once in a while you can do it. And my body, kind of got pissy for about 15 minutes and then I was fine. But it
Yay.
was so worth it. It was so worth that. And so that little balance of, what, we can be healthy 99% of the time and then eat that
Yeah.
muffin once a
Yeah.
year. If you're gonna go for the muffin, like go for it. But be the
Yeah.
like tie-breaking judge in a muffin baking contest. Like just
What a hoot. I
go over
love
the
it.
top. Yeah. So I had to share that because it's about finding the joy in life, and I'm not gonna let my principle of being gluten free ruin the once in a lifetime chance of
Yeah.
being a. I just thought it was the funniest thing. I felt like this was kind of fate. I was just being put in this moment. um but it's about getting joy. So back to you and teaching us about making sure we're eating healthy. I totally agree with you. On a day-to-day basis, we should fully make sure that we're nutrifying our body with the wholesome foods, lots of vegetables,
Oh, yeah.
and starting the day with breakfast. I used to never eat breakfast, then I'd be starving at lunch, and by dinner I'd be making the worst decisions possible.
Yes,
I would
exactly.
order double. I actually, anytime I went to a Chinese restaurant, they would tell me to stop ordering. They're like, "You've ordered enough." And I was like, what in what
But I'm
restaurant? I
hungry.
know, in what restaurant, and I want to take some home, right? But in what restaurant does the waiter say you ordered enough? And it had always happened to me. Like, I was like, is this just like the Chinese culture? They're like, you've ordered enough for you. You don't need any more. And it would be like, it would either be I'd be alone or I'd be with a friend, but I'd order like four entrees, and they're like, okay, you don't have to order anymore. And it would always happen to me. And it's
Wow.
just, it's so funny that when you don't eat breakfast, like you said, the
Yeah.
willpower by lunch goes out. And so for me, it would either be lunch or dinner. I would have no willpower. And now,
Mhm.
like, I follow you. You sat me down and you taught me about breakfast salads, which I'm like, how did I not know about this? Tell us, give us some breakfast salad recipes, because I kid you not, breakfast salads are my new favorite thing. It's kind of like all of a sudden smoothie bowls came out of nowhere. If you're on Pinterest, you see like these smoothie bowls,
Yes.
and you're like, what is a smoothie bowl? And it's basically like, like it sounds, but it's like a smoothie, but then you add a bunch of cool stuff to it, like fruit and whatever
Mhm.
else, dried coconut flakes, or so there's
Mhm.
like, it's like a smoothie and a soup, basically,
Yes,
a
yeah. They
gazpacho
tend to be
smoothie.
fairly thick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and eat it with a spoon.
Yeah.
But you introduced me to breakfast salads, and I am so full that I can't eat until like 2 p.m. because I like that breakfast salad just totally
Mhm.
keeps me like even keel, level
Mhm.
energy, makes it so that I can make healthier decisions at lunch and dinner because I am not
Mhm.
starving. So yeah,
Yeah.
teach us about
It's
breakfast salads, and I'm so
yeah.
thankful that you introduced me to them.
Well, it's balancing your glycemic load so that you're not getting the sugar spikes and having your insulin off. So yeah, I would just have essentially most of my meals now are a salad base and a protein and some vegetables. So for breakfast, oh my gosh, with say some wilted spinach or wilted kale. Kale is such a strongly flavored leaf that chopped and cooked with something that softens it and sweetens it a little bit. And by sweeten, I mean like ghee and a little flavoring of any sort, sometimes even chili powder, just to give it a little kick. And then floating on top of the cooked vegetable, an egg or two, or an egg and some bacon, or some shrimp. Oh my gosh, I'm salivating just thinking about the next meal because it's so yummy to do something like this. I just love having some kind of salad green, but there are any kind of green. So basically, it's a simple thing. Any kind of green, some kind of protein that you favor. Sometimes I'll have salmon. Oh, it's making me hungry.
Well,
Just
it's your dinner
describing the
time.
food.
I'm
Yeah,
torturing you, having recording this podcast at your dinner time.
yeah.
Yeah, and what was fun with making we did it together when Catherine
Mhm.
Ann showed me about these breakfast salads. We have nitrate free, organic bacon
Ah,
with no sugar added. It's bacon, but it's like the healthiest bacon you can get. And
oh,
then I
it's
do up
delicious.
some eggs, and I do the eggs, over easy. And then the yolk is just drizzling on all the
Mhm.
salad greens, and we kind of get the salad greens from Costco are great because they're
The
like beet
organic,
organic, and it's like beet greens and baby kale and
arugula and kale.
arugula and
Yeah.
all those different wonderful delicious greens. And then I would make up like a garlic sauce to go over it, or
So
you
you see why I like eating with you, Ashley.
or
When I
the
describe food, it's not so sensual and sexy by the sound of it. Yeah, I just go, yeah, the basics.
well, and sometimes what I
Mm.
learned is from you is to take the leftover veg. Always make more. Like whenever you're
Yes,
making a meal, make
absolutely.
more. And so I'd have leftover vegetables or leftover vegetables and protein, and then I would put the leftover vegetables in either cold or I'd warm it up, and
Mhm.
sometimes take that salad, the salad greens like the power greens, and just
It's 7
very
o'clock.
lightly saute it, or after I was finished making the bacon and making the eggs, I turned the stove off, but the pan is still warm, and
Mhm.
put the salad greens in there to wilt them. So like you
Yep.
said, wilt the kale a little bit, because it's
Mhm.
good to just sometimes cook slightly. It helps
Yep.
digestion, so it's not raw. Like this is what you
Yeah.
taught me, and
It's
then
particularly true with kale and spinach.
hmm
Spinach, yeah, generally shouldn't be eaten raw.
and you yeah we just
Yeah.
cooked it just a little bit, and then it
Yeah.
would soak up the juice from
Oh.
the bacon. And but yeah, we played around with it, but basically every breakfast looked like this gorgeous bowl of salad with protein and healthy fats over it, or get some avocado.
Mhm.
And I was just in love because I'm like, man, I know I'm supposed to eat more vegetables, and a variety at each meal.
Mhm.
But I was really struggling with how am I going to get vegetables in for breakfast, and this was
Yeah.
this was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things I've found is that it's really simple to alter, um, the choices so that it doesn't get boring. You can keep changing the flavorings, you can keep changing the different proteins, and I find that, one of my absolute all-time favorite substitutions is cauliflower rice
Mm.
for any rice. I haven't had rice in a very long time, and cauliflower rice just gives me that the texture of a crunchy rice. So you can cook it at any kind of level. Have it raw. You can go anywhere from raw to really mushy. So anywhere along that spectrum, it's delicious, and you can flavor it, and it's a very neutral flavor. So the cauliflower can be um, a rice substitute, depending on how you use it and how you cook it. So that's another one that I think is really
I
fabulous.
absolutely agree with you. In fact, I when I started getting into cauliflower rice, and then I think we had just gone out or went, this was over a year ago this happened. I had just discovered cauliflower rice. We were going crazy with it, eating it every night and trying it in all different ways that you could prepare rice. And then we went out somewhere and had like a real rice, like rice, like white rice, and I was disappointed. I thought, man, I've loved rice my whole life. It's one of those like carbs that I don't put me in front of it because I can't stop eating it. And so
Hmm.
I like to very seldomly have it, because I've in my past it's been like, so rice to me has been so delicious.
Hmm.
And then I realized that cauliflower rice has way more flavor and way more appeal to me now, because white rice is just
Hmm.
kind of bland, and then
Hmm.
it'll take on the flavor of what you've added to it. But with cauliflower rice, it not only takes on the flavor of what you cook with it, but it has its own flavor. And
Hmm.
so I now love
Bonus.
cauliflower rice, total bonus, and you can pig out on it and it's cauliflower.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you eat healthy vegetables, really I don't find that I miss a lot of things when I'm eating a healthy combination of foods. And I have found that my interest in and my taste for sugar has really shifted a lot too. One of the things that I've explored is different types of stevia, and um, the m- I tried lots of different stevias in powder form. Truvia is the one that I found I liked the best, which is a combination of stevia and erythritol. And I don't really like that having a combination of something with stevia because different people have different reactions to it. I
Yeah,
think we need to
right,
try them
exactly.
out.
I cannot, my body can't handle any kind of alcohol sugar, and I'm
Hmm.
always surprised when I see alcohol sugars being mixed with stevia, because stevia is sweet enough. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand why they do, but I know sometimes people manufacturers put xylitol with it, and that one has digestive. I have digestive responses to that are unpleasant, and it doesn't take much. So liquid stevia, though, oh my gosh, that is just the best.
Mm-hmm.
So finding that has really been a game changer for me because I have totally replaced all the synthetic sugar substitutes and really now enjoy the stevia.
I
I'm
absolutely agree with
so
you.
grateful.
And what I would say is like try different brands until you find the one you
Yes.
like, because I've tried liquid ones and I didn't like, and it really
Mhm.
just depends. Each and every liquid stevia brand has a totally different flavor to it, which is kind of weird. It's like
I know.
it's how they process it. But one thing I didn't tell you was that one of my future guests is going to be an owner of a stevia company, and he shipped me some samples, and it's not liquid, which I was really surprised. He does this powder, and I was skeptical, I got to tell you, because I'm not just going to like let someone on the show and
Mm,
promote them, without trying their products. And
right.
I am totally in love with the stevia.
Really?
Yeah, it's very light and fluffy, and weighs almost nothing. And I'm like, well, how much do I put in my coffee, right? Because just has a tiny scooper. It's like it's
Yes.
the
Yeah.
scooper is this like a teardrop. That's
Yes.
how much.
Yes.
And so
I have one of
I
those.
did three
They're tiny.
scoopers, three teardrops, and it was way too much. And so I've been playing around
Woohoo!
with it. But yeah, I don't know how he makes money, because this one canister is going to last me an entire year. And but I did some
Wow.
baking with it. I'm not baking. It's I made a like a chocolate pudding with it's
Oh,
actually really healthy. It's coconut
coconut.
milk
Mhm.
and gelatin, so collagen, organic collagen,
Mhm.
and coconut, and then raw organic cacao, and I blended that with the stevia, and it was incredible. My son ate an
Yeah.
entire plate of it. It's basically like chocolate jello, right? But
Yes.
yeah, it worked really well, this stevia. So that's a guest that's coming up on the show. So I
Wow.
really like his stuff, but he does have in his line of stevias, he does do alcohol sugars, and I just told him only send me the one that's pure, because I'm not a really big fan of alcohol sugar. But yeah, so I have not
Great.
found any powdered stevia I liked until his brand. And so
Wow.
I just say experiment with
Yes.
stevia, because replacing that sugar, I mean, it is amazing how I remember you told me when we were sitting down calculating it, when someone cuts out sugar from their coffee, they lose 15 pounds a year just
Yeah.
from sugar in their coffee. You told me that, and
Yeah.
I was blown away.
It's amazing, isn't it? When you think about some simple change that can make a significant difference. And the danger of having the coffee and the muffin, if you can find an alternative to sugar in your coffee, um, you may be turning out to be lactose intolerant as well. And if you are, then coconut milk. Some people tolerate almond milk or soy milk. I don't. I don't tolerate either of those. I am delighted with coconut milk. I recommend people stay away from soy because so much of it is GMO. But uh, looking at ways of using something that gives you pleasure in your food without the kinds of side effects that sugar has, or the muffin, for example, has sugar, has carbs that are tossing your glycemic um, response into overdrive. We don't want those kinds of things, and we want to be able to maintain a level insulin production and lots of energy. So replacing those with healthier choices. And I'm so delighted with stevia in my coffee, and I make sure that I have a healthy smoothie, healthy breakfast. Um, those are great ways to start the day.
Now, I'm just bragging on you for a sec. You earned your NBA while NBA MBA.
MBA, yeah.
I'm just imagining
Yeah.
you on the court, the NBA court. You earned your
Not quite. I'm too short.
you earned your MBA while you were working 2.5 jobs at the
Yep.
University of Toronto. So
Hmm.
you are the expert in figuring out how to balance a life. And so I'd like you to share some for those of us who are busy. It's like it's funny. I think my husband the other day was reading some political articles, and he said, the new press secretary, I can't remember how old she is. She was something like she's 28 years old. I don't know how old she was, but she was
Hmm.
young. And she's got like 3 kids, all under the age of 5 or something.
Hmm.
So he said something
Yeah.
like that. I don't remember the exact words, but he was kind
Yeah.
of like, he looked at me, he goes, I fail at life. He's like, I have one kid, and my life is in chaos, and this lady is like works at the White House and has 3 kids, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
and it's funny when we think our life is hectic and crazy, and then we look. Like, there is this family on YouTube I stumbled upon, called the Family Fun Pack, and they're like 5 kids and a mom, and she films them. She has like 55 million downloads. It's just crazy. And and you look at her life and you're like, oh my gosh, like I like to watch her life. Like, all her kids are fantastic and well behaved, and she's a great mom, but I look at her and I go, like, that is like a whole new level of like chaos that she manages.
Wow.
And I mean, I'd be overwhelmed by like earning my MBA and doing one job. Like, you worked
Hmm.
2.5 jobs and did your
Hmm.
MBA while maintaining, health and vitality, and so you really figured out a bunch of strategies for how to
Hmm.
manage yourself and your life so
Hmm.
that you didn't like snap, right? Um, teach us something for all my listeners who are so busy, who are trying to balance their work life and their home life and their health. What are
Hmm.
some things we can do to keep balance and keep healthy, even though we have quote unquote no time?
Yeah, it's interesting. I still remember one time I was going to a meeting, and a young woman looked at me and she said, "Katherine-Anne, I don't know how you do it because I know how busy you are, but you always look together." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "You have a great wardrobe, and how do you manage it when you're not um, able to spend any time on it?" And I had to think about it for a minute, and I said, "Buy more underwear." Um, 'Cause I couldn't do laundry as often as I was used to because I didn't have the time to sit around and or to catch it between transferring to the washer and the dryer, and food. Clothing would sit in the washer and just kind of develop its own living
Ecosystem.
ecosystem. Yeah. So no, I developed a system to pay attention to my wardrobe by just having more underwear, because your outer clothing tends to be able to cope a little longer if you take good care of it. And I did. Um, but I also was doing a lot of walking because I was working in different places. How I came to be doing 2.5 jobs, I got promoted into a very senior position for a year, and I couldn't find anyone to fill the job that I had. It was a very complex job in human resources, and I supervised a lot of people and managed a significant budget as well as the human resources aspect to it. And it was a difficult job to fill. No one really wanted it for the amount of time that it was available for. And then I had a staff member who left, and I wound up doing her job for a part of the time as well, because it took some time to do the recruitment. So in that, I learned that I needed to take breathing space. I had a really structured time, and I made sure that I took breaks where I could. So there were meetings that I would have with staff members who reported to me. And what I would do in those meetings is make sure that I had something that hydrated me and an opportunity to draw breath. They were reporting to me. They were the ones who were supposed to be stressed in these meetings, not me, right? And it wasn't about them being stressed either, but I recognized that I was in the position where I could draw breath when I had those meetings with people. And so I used them as times to relax a little bit because I was coaching them and, and having a good time with it. And so using those times to catch breath and just focus on something other than me and what I had to produce, but using the resources that I had. So people knew that they were appreciated as well because I valued them. And that had me, it's like a feedback loop. When you value someone, they give you something back. And so I was well supported by the staff members that I had because they knew that I was working hard and that I supported them, and they gave me everything that they could. So I felt really great and I felt well supported. I worked with a lot of students during that time as well, and I was really, really fortunate in the quality of the student attention that I got. At the end of the time, I was going back to my human resources position, and the student president came to me and said, "What can we do to have you stay? Because you have given us so much support." And it was amazing to me that that was how the entire student body felt. Although I felt I had met with only a few of them during the time, it reflects the ripple effect that conversations have because the students knew that they could rely on me for support, just as my staff knew that as well. So it comes back to you. What I give, I get back, I find. It's how I was able to cope and get through that year. I felt great and well supported. Now, in that time, doing the 2.5 jobs, I wasn't getting a lot of sleep though, because there were structures that just didn't last very well, and sleep was the thing that I wasn't getting as much of as I really wanted. So there were occasions when I would have a day on the weekend when I practically hibernated. I'd wake up and have lunch and then go back to bed for a nap, and um, but I had a study group as well for my degree, and we functioned a lot by telephone. And telephone at 10 o'clock at night, too, because our group was all professional women, and we got on very well by phone, and we all were able to support each other. So again, what we gave to each other, we got back. And I think that's kind of the connection that we have as women, especially with each other, and as a coach, as a mentor with a client. Same kind of benefit. What we give, we get back. So it may not look like it from the outside, but it certainly feels like it.
I love it. It's so cool.
Mm.
Yeah, you have so many skills, even you don't realize you have, just that you've developed over the years. And then I've seen you do it where someone is sharing with you, and you all of a sudden realize that there's something you can contribute to them.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's because you've got all these tools that you've had to develop throughout the years. So
It's true.
you've got a very big tool belt.
Yeah, it's interesting when I think about it because as you say, there's a lot that I don't consciously remember all the time. And I thought about the different kinds of things that I've studied over the years and the courses that I've taken, the practices I've had. And because I've gone in cycles in my own studies and my own health practices, I've incorporated a lot of different things into my life over the years, and then there are things that, as practices, have fallen away at different times. So um, I do remember them if I need them, but I don't necessarily use them all the time.
Right, like you said, because different things will work at different times in our life. So
Hmm.
we don't always want to use the same tool.
Thank goodness, eh?
What's the saying? If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yes, I know. I was thinking about that earlier too. Yeah. Which is
Funny.
one of the reasons, yeah, I was thinking about MDs and how they want to give drugs as a response because that's a good one that they know in their toolbox. So,
Right, right. And
yeah.
in the United States, they typically only have 15 minutes with the patient. They don't get to have like an hour or 90 minutes or even 45 minutes. Like most naturopathic physicians have
Hmm.
the ability to sit down with their patient and really get to know them. MDs just have they have enough time to basically figure out what drug to give you, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying all MDs are going to do that, but every MD I've ever been to in the United States has basically walked into the room holding their prescription pad and never put it down.
Oh.
Yeah, you would be. It was culture shock for me coming from Canada. They're actually less drug happy in Canada than they are in the States.
Mhm.
When I first moved to the America, I had chronic adrenal fatigue. I had diabetes. I had constant sore throats, constant infections, to the point where on a monthly basis I needed antibiotics. And
Mhm.
that's they all go hand in hand. By the way,
Yes.
the chronic adrenal fatigue and blood sugar issues and infections all go hand in hand.
Hmm.
And so I was seeing MDs, and there's one time I had this sore throat. I mean, I could talk, I could swallow. It wasn't like the end of the world. And she prescribed me a pain medicine, a
Oh.
liquid, like a syrup, a pain medicine.
Uh,
And I'm thinking to myself, like, in Canada, they just tell you to suck it up and go home. Like they don't just hand you over pain medicine. But yeah, every time I went to I even went to a more holistic quote unquote MD, and I told him about little kind of discomfort I had in my body, and he whipped out the prescription pad and was ready to give me a drug, and he didn't even know what the discomfort was. I was worried it was my
wow.
I was worried I was having an appendix issue, and I had an ultrasound. Nothing was wrong. So it was just, nothing. It was, I have a high pain tolerance. So I wasn't sure if it was like my appendix exploding or, I'm just not feel like maybe gas, who knows. But he was like really quick to give me drugs. I was really surprised because I figure you would want to not numb something when you're trying to listen to it, right? But
Yes.
I never go to an MD complaining about pain, and they always seem to want to give me pain meds. So I just report to them like, hey, this is what's going on with my body. And I was really surprised because in Canada, like they'll still give you drugs if you need them, but I was never once offered a pain medicine. I broke my
Mhm.
ankle and walked home on it, and I still
Oh.
wasn't given pain medicine like in Canada.
Oh.
So, it's very different culture here when it comes to drugs, but when you're in it, you think this is how the whole world is.
Yes. Yes.
So it is really interesting, and same with food. I was really surprised at the portion sizes here, but when you live here for a long time, you forget that the rest of the world does not eat this giant plate of food. But when you go to restaurants, you tend to see that if you go to around the world and then you come to America again, you realize that American portion sizes are huge,
Hmm.
and they're not often like 10 servings of vegetables, which was what we're supposed
Yeah,
to have. It's it's like lots
yeah.
of fried food. So it's interesting the cultural difference around the world, and yet America spends the most on health care and quote unquote health care because
Yes.
it's more like disease management,
Hmm.
but we've got one of the highest obesity rates and
Hmm.
diabetes rates. 1 in 3 people are pre-diabetic or diabetic. We've got the one of the highest cancer rates. We are. It's really sad about infant mortality. We're
Hmm.
something like 31st or 32nd
Yeah,
out of all the countries in infant survival rate,
yeah.
and yet we spend the most. So we're obviously spending the money on drugs, which is not really
Hmm.
solving the problem, and which is what you're saying. It's like needing to just take the time to listen to
Yeah.
what's going on. And that's another reason why I love you as a health coach, because you listen for what's missing and help them find it and help them bring balance back into their life so that these little things that are going on aren't going to turn to really big things. Because if you can catch them early enough
Mm,
and make the shift, then you're going to make the biggest difference.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting that I think the top three you mentioned are the diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. And I think the next is probably drug interactions. All of those are critical problems for us in North America in particular. And I think escaping from that cycle is really critically important. Certainly to your listeners. I think that's one of our benefits with your podcast because your listeners are already looking for something that is healthier than those alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some ways of providing really great opportunities for people to regain their health and find health that they didn't have or didn't know they could have outside of allopathic medicine and disease management and drug interactions and all of those horrific things. I'm just really delighted that you're doing this, you're on this journey, and that I'm able to contribute to my clients as well, because I think it's a true opportunity for people to have health and better lives as a result of paying attention to what's on their fork and how much they and what they drink, and just taking care of ourselves. I think self care is something that is not what we know how to do. We spend a lot of time numbing ourselves. And particularly when we've been identified as having a health issue, I think we tend to want to avoid looking at it because it's very scary to have been identified with high blood pressure and heart problems and diabetes and potentially leading to cancer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what can we do? And there are ways of improving health. Like when you look at the two of us, the changes and improvements we've made in our health in the last few years, just a phenomenal, phenomenal story. And I think inspirational for people to know that it can be done and that we can make a change. And we can certainly support people to make changes in their diet, in their lifestyle, to have a better quality of life, better joy in life. Like I'm all about access to joy. I was so inspired to choose that for my website. If you don't mind me saying so, I was I realized when I talked earlier about having those critical incidents lead me to a grieving period of trying to soothe myself with sweet things and sweeten up my life and then getting an infection and being really ill. Changing to something that had me be healthier has really improved the quality of my life. And one of the things that I've learned as part of this journey is that food is part of self-care as well as a lot of other things. And so paying attention to hydration, paying attention to the quality of sleep, paying attention to the food that I eat, and then the components of my relationships with people, what I give to people as part of my relationship with them. I used to drop everything and run to support people. I pay better attention to whether or not it's good for me to do that. And I'm willing sometimes to say no or not now. I'm willing to look at other things and have some fun. I listen to music sometimes, and I'll take time to read a book, a novel maybe. I generally read a lot of nonfiction, specifically in the health area, and reading a novel from time to time is a novel idea. Um, just entertaining some ways of laughing and finding ways to just think different thoughts, looking at what has my spirituality, what sources me, what brings me joy, all those things that I can just enjoy and joy in are things that I can share with other people and bring joy to them too. It's not to say that everything that it brings me joy will bring you joy or bring your listeners joy, but we can pick and choose those things. And I guess that's another menu that we have available.
Right. And I think your example of your client that I mean, you just helped her figure out the missing in her life, and that brought her joy not only at home but also in her work life, and it brought her
Hmm.
more joy in general and peace and
Hmm.
this it's really cool. So, yes, your website is accesstojoy.com, which I'm very proud of the work you've done. You built your own website, which I think
Yes.
is so cool.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
you did such a great job, and I know that you're offering this great video series that you've been working on, um, which is really cool too. And you also, which I want to let my listeners know about. So I'm just gonna help you. I'm just gonna plug this for you. Um,
Thank you.
so you wait, but I want you to explain it because I don't want to put the words in your mouth. So what you have is a free, free, uh,
Health discovery session.
health discovery session, which I think is
Mm.
really cool. So you'll sit down with someone and you'll talk with them for 45 minutes,
Mm.
and you will explore with them and see what benefits you could provide for them. But even in the discovery session alone, based on the questions you ask, a lot of people end up having breakthroughs just
Hmm.
from this free discovery
Yeah.
session. So, listeners, you definitely want to check out accesstojoy.com and sign up for Katherine-Anne's free discovery session. And at the end of the 45 minutes, if you totally resonate with Katherine-Anne, you could ask her to tell you about her coaching program, which is, in my opinion, highly affordable and also very worth it, because the things that she's helped me with in my life have made a big difference, and I've seen the difference that she's made in others' lives. So I've
Mm.
been wanting to get you on the show for the last 16 months, and I finally got you on the show. I'm so happy. It's just the stars aligned, our schedules aligned, everything's perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
And so yeah, why don't you share a little bit about what this discovery session, why they should go to accesstojoy.com and get a discovery session, or what kind of person would really benefit from it.
Well, one of the things that I encourage people to do is bring an inquiring mind because the discovery session is an exploration. And in a way, it's like our history is a cave. So I think of it as a cave where we each have a flashlight and we are wandering around exploring different aspects of it. So we might shine a light on something that you're not even aware is there. And we might shine a light on something that shows you a new pathway to something even better, and a place of glittering jewels and really great excitement. It's an inquiring mind is a really great thing to bring to it, because it's an exploration of your own. So again, this is where the coaching part comes in, because I'm asking questions and exploring what you say on the discovery form, and you're sharing further information and exploring further yourself and uncovering something for yourself. So even in the discovery session, there's an opportunity to learn something that you can take away and change your life, have greater access to joy. I love it.
.com.
.com.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is just the first time. I will have you back because you have more to share. In fact, Katherine-Anne, didn't you, through nutrition in the last 6 years, make a significant shift in your ichthyosis?
Oh, yes.
So we've got to have you come back on the show. Why don't we just leave that as a teaser? Come back on the show. Now, ichthyosis, I'll give them my impression of you. It was like almost half your body was covered in this like calluses, like hard,
Hmm.
like brown
Hmm.
calluses that looked like painful, like looked like they could crack and bleed.
Hmm. And
And
they often did.
your hands were covered in them.
Hmm.
And now you've taught me how to make the most delicious body cream, because you've done so much self-care. And
Hmm.
my heels were kind of rough, and then you taught me how to make them smooth. Like, you know a ton about how to take care of skin, because you've really impressed your doctors too, because normally people with ichthyosis are in really bad shape, and you've
Hmm.
continue to be in great shape because you make your own from scratch, your own
Yep.
lotions, and really take the time to self-care. So you definitely know about self-care. And all the different ways that in your own you can turn your bathroom into a spa. Catherine has this way of turning a bathroom into a spa, and she's figured out how to like do all the spa treatments, and she can teach you how to do like these wet towel, hot towel scrubs, and
Oh,
dry
yes.
brushing and all that cool stuff. But what's really interesting is that you dialed in and figured out your nutrition so that you healed your skin. And
Hmm.
I'm continually impressed that what used to be almost 100% of your hands just totally covered in ichthyosis. Now, what would you say the percentage of your skin has been healed in the last 6 years as a result of your nutritional changes?
Mm, almost all. My skin is I would say it's a dry skin now, as opposed to being this painful, evident,
Fish
uncomfortable
scales.
scales. Yeah. Now it's simply dry skin, and I don't stand out in a crowd, and I'm comfortable wherever I am.
And the,
And people don't come up to me and go, "Ooh, what is that?"
oh my gosh, they used to do that? That's crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. Well, and wasn't your father in a textbook because of
Hmm.
his
Yeah.
I mean, ichthyosis is so rare that wasn't he a case in a textbook?
Yes. Yeah. When I was researching it when I was in my 20s, I was at a university, and the reference library had 8 references to ichthyosis at the time. Thankfully, I'm not sure if thankfully or not, because people are getting turned into guinea pigs, but my father was 5 of those references. Yeah, and I
5 of the 8.
recognize, yeah, 5 of the 8, because he had spent a year in hospital when he was 5 years old. He had had polio as a baby, and they wanted to operate on his hamstring to enable him to walk a little more comfortably. And they were afraid to cut his skin because they felt that his skin would overgrow into his body if they did the surgery that they wanted to do. So they experimented on healing his skin for a year. And he had a memory. This was a 5-year-old child that they were treating in the hospital. He had a memory of, at one time, being totally paralyzed because the solution that they found was a chemical that left him paralyzed
Oh my gosh.
and unable to deal with anything. Now, if you can imagine the torture that would be for a child, I had nothing but respect for what he survived in that environment. And honestly, they had good intent. I'm not questioning their intent. It was the impact on his life that was not really great.
Well,
So,
knowing your dad, and he was such a wonderful, loving, just bright, brilliant person who was just a bright light for everyone. And
mhm,
so I would have never known that about him,
mhm,
just because his personality, which, makes sense knowing you, you come from wonderful parents. Um, but what, getting back to the ichthyosis, you were told it was hereditary. Obviously, your dad had it, you had it. Um, and you had it your whole life. But then in the last 6 years, you discovered this type of nutrition, that's supplements and food, but the combination of them that
mhm,
that was able to make a huge difference. And I
mhm.
love that. And so we'll have you back on the show to just talk about skin and skin health and ichthyosis, because I know there's people out there who are suffering from different skin conditions, and you
Mhm.
have some very powerful messages, from
Yep.
very powerful things to share about how we can, no matter what you've been diagnosed with, no matter what skin condition you have,
Yes.
Catherine-Anne has a way to teach you how to heal skin.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of, through,
Self-care.
yeah, self-care, and has kind of become the expert in my mind because of the what she's been able to accomplish. So definitely want to have you back for that.
Yeah, sample size of 1.
Yeah. Well, you've done all the experimenting on yourself, and you've really
That's true.
dialed it in. So, but I love that through nutrition and through lifestyle changes, you've been able to
Yes.
completely heal something that you had your whole life. So wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Catherine, so much for being on the show. I'd love for you to complete our interview today with any final words that you'd like to share with the listeners.
One of the things I would say is that access to joy is about the tools and ideas that will have an individual feel happy, find joy, be connected with themselves. And there are lots of tools that I know and share, and I love to do it. So I look forward to working with people, and offering the discovery session is a great thing. And Ashley, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. You've really allowed me to explore a lot myself here today, and I look forward to being back.
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn to Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you could support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.